So, Pierre.
Yes, sir.
You're very welcome.
Good to see you, my friend.
In Northern Ireland. Sorry we couldn't organise the weather for you, but here, that's the way it is.
I knew it.
Yeah.
If you are there for the right 20 minutes, it's fine.
Exactly. We got the sun yesterday for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
that's right.
But I was in my hotel room having a nap, so I didn't take advantage of it.
C'est la vie.
Right.
Anyway, so you're very welcome, and
Thank you.
It's good to see you. I have first met you, would be 1977, you said?
We didn't met in 1937, but that was the first time I heard of you through a friend of yours, Alistair Burke, who came to my show in Warren Point and introduced me to your name.
Okay.
And he said, my friend George would have loved to come to the show. He could not, but he's hoping that you could pay him a visit tomorrow morning before you head out.
Okay.
And I could not.
You couldn't do it. Yeah.
I could not do it. I had to go back to Dublin first thing.
Yeah.
So he said to me, would you have a contact in Paris, a shop that you know where I could go on your behalf to present my French work?
Yes.
And I gave him the contact of my friends, Quincampoix, Gérard and Jean-Luc Charnos, at Quincampoix, right in the Marais, right downtown Paris. The time went by and I completely forgot about that meeting, and one day I received a phone call from Gérard at the shop. Gérard at Quincampoix, and Gérard says, Pierre, we have received 6 guitars from Northern Ireland. You have to come and check them out as soon as you can.
Yeah.
So the next day I took my moped the next day and I went to the shop, because that shop was sort of my headquarters in Paris. I was hanging there so much. People working there with my friends. We were having lunch all the time together. I was giving guitar lessons there. I was, jamming with people there.
You were there.
So it was like a home away from home,
Yeah.
So I went and I saw those 6 guitars on the wall, and Lowden Guitars. And so when the first time I saw them, then I reconnected with that meeting.
With Alistair.
Yeah. And I saw those guitars, and what struck me at first were their beauty, inside out, their elegance, but also their sort of very simple beauty. Simple beauty.
Yeah.
Just to look at them, it was like, my wife would say, it was like haute couture. It was like so refined, so elegant, so pristine. And so then I started to take one, and the first thing I do when I have a guitar in my hand, I smell it.
You smell it, yeah.
I smell it. Mm-hmm. I smell the wood, I touch the wood, I put my hands inside, and inside it was as fine, smooth as it was outside. Yeah. I smelled inside. And then I started to play, and I played the 6 of them, and the song was unbelievable. It was quite a very distinctive new sound compared to what we knew then.
Yes.
The Martin, the Gibson, all those American guitars available, which were the reference for all of us playing string. So I thought, oh my God, this is definitely a different identity.
Yes.
So this is when I asked Gérard to give me your contact, your phone number, and I called you, I think, the next day.
I remember.
And I asked you to make me a guitar. And so I didn't say, this guitar has to be this wood. I said nothing. I didn't even talk about the size. I just remember me telling you, I play in DADGAD tuning.
Yeah.
So if you could take in account that the bass is going to sound deeper in D all the time, and I would need probably a little bit more treble compared to what I've heard of your 6 guitars. Yes. That's all I told you.
Yes, that's right, you did. And I, so when you told me that, when I made the guitar, I used mahogany and cedar. And when I made the guitar, I adjusted the internal bracing a little bit in the hope that it would give a little bit more treble response. You see, I like trebles that are fat.
Yeah.
I don't like trebles that are thin.
No.
Especially if you play high up here, the 10th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th, 14th, 16th, 20th fret, I like the sound to be fat.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that was in my mind when I changed the bracing just a little bit. And then afterwards, about a year after you got the guitar, you asked me to give it a little bit more bass.
Yeah, that I forgot.
Yeah, and then so I took the guitar and I went inside with a little thumb plane, and I planed a little bit off some of the struts.
Oh wow!
And,
so you took some of the wood out?
A little bit, yeah. I think for me at that time I was quite naive. I was just trying to. I had got the guitars to a certain point. Mm-hmm. But I was learning all the time, and I still am, because the guitar is not a perfect instrument. The guitar is evolving, and we are learning new things all the time.
And the musician also evolves with the guitar.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I remember those guitars. Interestingly, those guitars that went to Quincampoix. Probably my pronunciation is terrible, but Alistair phoned me with the order, and I was, wow, a shop in Paris wants to order 6 guitars. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. And so, we made them, myself and a couple of my helpers. We made them, and we put them in the back of Alistair's mother's Renault 5. And we drove.
That's quite a small car.
Yeah. And we drove the whole way to.
Oh, you went to Paris?
Yeah,
with Alistair.
It was a big adventure.
Fantastic. So you went to meet. You met Gerard and Jean-Luc then.
And Jean-Luc and
excellent.
It was really nice. And then they started to sell them very quickly. Yeah. And they said we want 6 every month, and I was like, whoa.
Amazing.
So that was the start of the journey, and you were instrumental in that. Along with Alistair.
I was just one little civil servant in a way.
No.
Because in fact, also Gerard and Jean-Luc were also very instrumental in connecting you with Servette Music in Geneva.
Exactly.
And then Eric from Servette Music said, we're going to need more of those guitars. You might consider having a production in Japan.
Yes, that's right.
So that went through him.
That's right, exactly.
In fact, and then through him you met Werner.
Exactly.
We started to distribute your guitar
in Switzerland.
So you see, there has been several little actors that the universe has placed on your way, and in fact, we have been all of us actors of each other.
That's right. Yeah.
I think because for me, this guitar. So you, through the guitar, have been very, very fundamental in my musical expansion.
Your musical journey.
My musical journey.
Yeah.
And of course, the musical journey would have been different with another guitar. I'm not saying that.
Yes, of course.
The relationship between an instrument and a musician is very important. So for me, that's why for a long, long time, at least 25 years, that guitar was the only guitar I had. Mm-hmm. At least for 25 years.
And you still have it?
Of course.
It's still there.
It's not an old lady anymore, it's a grandmother.
It's a grandmother.
Yeah.
Actually, when my wife and I and Daniel and Bryony, we moved to France, we moved there because at that time there were political troubles here in Northern Ireland. And people were not coming very much, especially musicians. And a lot of my customers were in France and Germany and Switzerland. And that was one of the reasons we moved there, to try and see if we could stay there. And so we were living in a chateau that had been not gifted to us, but rented to us at a very, very good price. And a beautiful place, as you remember.
At the border with Switzerland.
And the border with Switzerland and France.
And Geneva, in fact.
And Geneva, about 25 minutes south of Geneva. Yeah. The Alps were coming out of the back garden.
Amazing.
And the valley below, beautiful place. And I set up my workshop in what used to be the torture chamber of... Seriously. This chateau, well, you remember, it was a medieval chateau.
Yeah. And I didn't know there was a torture chamber.
Well, that's
I'm not surprised though.
That's the legend,
Yeah.
And so I set my workshop up in there, and you came along with your original guitar that you bought in 1978, and you asked me, George, can you make it into a cutaway? Because it was a full body shape.
Yeah.
And you also asked me to make a neck wider.
Yeah, I remember.
So, and of course, this was a challenge for me, but you know, we had just moved to France, and I needed the work. So
you never did that before. You never did a cutaway before.
No. Well, yeah, I did a cutaway, but from the beginning, to change the guitar with the full body shape into a cutaway was a challenge.
It's like building almost a new guitar.
Yeah, exactly. And making the neck wider, I had to take the fingerboard off, and I took the fingerboard off, made the new fingerboard the correct width, and then I created a couple of facets on the back of the neck and glued a new wood on.
Very smart.
And then carved it in.
You know where this idea comes from? I want to pay tribute to my friend Eric Schoenberg in the US. So Eric is a beautiful fingerstylist.
Yes.
And so he was inspired by the original old Martin guitars who had a very wide fretboard so that classical players could also adapt themselves to play. And so Eric created a line of guitars called the Schoenberg guitars, inspired by that, and I played one, and I found it so comfortable for the right hand. That's why I wanted to move, because those original steel strings are aimed to be played with a plectrum. So of course, you don't want to have too much distance between the strings so that the plectrum doesn't have to travel too much. So it makes sense. But when you start manipulating those strings with your fingers, it's doable, and people do it very well. But it's a compromise you make. It's hard work, you know.
It's a bit like the difference between a flat pick style and a finger style. You need more width with the finger.
Well, this is why in the classical guitar world they have more widths, and they can do all those amazing arpeggio technique because they have the widths. So that was my idea. But now I'm moving even towards even more, a bit more space in between the strings, to try just an experiment, to try to have the exact same spacing between the strings and on the classical guitar.
No, I understand.
And see if it's doable, you know, because you see, we are still dealing with steel string with so much more pressure, so it might be much more challenging for the left hand.
Yes.
So, but I would like to try. Yeah.
Well, that'll be another.
I'm saying this, but I said nothing, right?
This is another project. So you mentioned Eric Schoenberg, and he was working closely with a shop in Massachusetts, Music Emporium, and I've had a very long relationship with Music Emporium as well. Fantastic shop, you know, and they have been selling your guitar there for many, many years, and some of our other guitars. So they're a good shop, very good shop. I want to give a shout out to
Three guys,
because they were the first shop that sold my guitars in America. Yeah. So, but anyway, then
fantastic.
A lot of years passed, Pierre.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I haven't seen.
Unfortunately,
I haven't seen them past.
We shouldn't say how many, but a lot of years passed, and we talked about a different signature model.
Yeah.
And I remember quite well, and you would remember very well, our good friend Werner Ernst, who lived in near Locarno in the south of Switzerland, in a beautiful place overlooking the valley, the Cento Valley.
And the lake.
Yeah, and the lakes. And Werner, of course, is a good guitar player himself, and he was instrumental in helping me over the years. And so when you talked about a new signature model, I went there, and I went down to the river, Cento Valley River, and I sat on top of one of the big boulders. You've been there, you remember? I sat on top of one of the boulders, and it was quiet. It was early morning, and the river was passing by. It was too cold to go for a swim. So, and it was there that I designed this signature model, sitting on top of the rock. And I find that nature, being in nature, you know, I mean, it might sound strange, but it's true. Being in nature, no distractions, sometimes helps me to come up with a new idea.
Surrounded by trees?
Yes, well, that also, yes, surrounded by trees, and against the water. So this is actually your signature model that I made and designed there. So the back and sides are either Honduras rosewood or Guatemalan rosewood, depending on what is available. But the soundboard is very different because the soundboard is Adirondack.
So where is this Adirondack is coming from?
From Adirondack, the Adirondack
New York?
Mountains.
It's coming from New York? Because I thought Adirondack became a type of wood that you could also find elsewhere.
You can find the same species elsewhere.
Like in Canada and stuff.
Yeah, and also in Ukraine,
okay,
for example. But the species, they usually call it red spruce. It's funny because it's not red at all. It's very white in color. But it's a very different wood. When I was working with it, it was quite stiff. Very stiff, in fact. And that's good because with steel strings, you need a bit of stability, you know?
Yeah.
So learning how to voice it and get the best out of it was a challenge, you know, for me.
I'm sure.
But I made a prototype with Adirondack and a prototype with cedar, you remember?
I do.
And I brought them to your home in France. And I still remember very well, Dorothea was also listening very carefully. And,
my wife, yeah.
Yeah, so here it is.
Yeah.
Would you like to play a couple of chords?
Yeah.
So your prototype is not here, but this is one of the...
That's a very brand new guitar.
This is absolutely new.
Wow. So it's tuned to DADGAD. I have
when you were playing up there, they're so bell-like, you know?
I remember when you came to my home with the two guitars, I tried the cedar because it was what I was used to from my original.
Sure.
And I tried that one, and I remember I wanted to go to a completely different sound.
Different sound
Story. And my agent then, my friend Klaus Schenz from Germany, my German booking agent said, okay, Pierre, whatever of the two guitars you don't get, I buy. So Klaus bought the other one, and he still have it, and he still plays it. Yeah. So I remember when I started to play it, and you were in front of me, you said some things that struck me. You said it's a 3D sound.
Three-dimensional.
Three-dimensional sound. And yeah, it's a three-dimensional sound.
It's very difficult to get words to explain sound.
What I like about this guitar is that first it's very brittle. The sound goes so fast from here to there.
Yes.
So fast because of the maple neck and because of the top.
Yeah.
So it's like a learning curve to tame that sound. At the very beginning, it's so brittle, you really have to be so careful in how you touch it.
Yeah.
And after 2 or 3 years, if it has been played a lot, the sound starts to come to peace.
Yes.
And starts to open into something much warmer.
Yes.
Which you would be surprised because, you know, when you speak of Adirondack, it's very powerful, very brittle, but in fact, it's so warm now. Yeah. My original signature is very, very warm.
Very warm, yeah.
The sound is very warm, but I remember at first it was like, oh my God.
A little bit brittle, yeah.
Yeah, because I went on tour with it right away. I toured with International Guitar Night. We did a tour in the US and I had that guitar, so I played it. I said it was the best for me to try to understand that guitar is to be confronted to the reality of playing live and be with it and play. That's the only guitar I'm going to play for a while now.
That's very adventurous of you to do that so quickly.
But there is no other choice. If you want to make that guitar, you have to play that guitar in every context. So I did, and I'm glad
you did.
So the reason why also I asked you to come up with a smaller body is because playing my djembe, and I used to play with the guitar on my right leg, like a folk, guitarist. Still rating, I didn't have that little neck up thing, guitar rest.
Yeah.
So the guitar was on my leg, and I was playing electronics, so I had a volume pedal.
Yes.
So I was putting my right foot on the volume pedal, the guitar there, and I was playing like this for 25 years. So in fact, I was on tour with John Lowden in the US, and I started to have so much pain in the neck, all the way down to my pelvis. Yeah, I remember, and so I was even to the point where I was thinking maybe I should cancel the rest of the tour and go home. But when we arrived in Denver, someone worked on me and allowed me to finish the tour. He did something, and I don't know what he did, but it really made me a lot of good. And then I finished the tour, and this is when I came to you and say, let's make a smaller guitar, because I was still using that position. So let's make a smaller guitar, but a little bit deeper in order to compensate, to have a bit more air, because it's deeper, so we'll have a bit more bass response. And you came up with something fantastic. In fact, the compromise is amazing, because that guitar is so balanced, so much bass. Can I buy it?
Well, we'll have to talk about the price.
Okay.
Talk about the price.
It's amazing. No, I mean, it
is nice.
But then I changed my position. Because I tried.
With this?
Yeah, no, I mean, not with this first, but first I tried to go to I didn't want to have my right shoulder up like this, because it was very, very difficult for the blood to arrive. When you look at all those classical guitarists, I said, they know what they're talking about. So I tried several times to switch to a classical position, but it was creating very new pain in my back, which was used to a different kind of torsade, muscles in my lower back. So I would do it 10 minutes, and when I would stop because it was painful, then 15 minutes, and then I would have to stop, then 20 minutes, and then one day I played, there was no more pain. And so I completely changed my position then.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah.
So we actually have your other signature model.
So this is why we went back to the original old lady.
But you're still playing this one as well.
I am much less now, because I'm enjoying so much.
You're learning the other one.
The big fat body and jumbo size and stuff, but I'm rediscovering this guitar through this brand new guitar, and I'm falling in love with it again.
Brilliant.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's nice, huh? Velvet. Where is the fret?
I know. It's terrible.
Amazing. Wow. So, some people have a lot of guitars, or at least several guitars, because they are looking for different colors depending what they play.
Sure.
My attitude was like a pianist. In fact, a pianist is creating the colors with his own instrument. His only instrument he has to create different colors and how he's going to touch.
On one piano.
On one piano, how it's going to touch, how the use or not of the pedals, when, how long the pedals, and
the touch.
The signature being with how the notes are distributed into an harmonic context. And for me, the guitar, that's how because I come from the piano, that's my original instrument, so the guitar is a little bit like that. If I am happy with the way one guitar sounds, then I should be able to play any music on it. Anything, depending on whatever the circumstance, whatever the expansion, whatever the dynamic of the music, very, 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 very pianissimo, fortissimo, the guitar should be able to produce that quality. And so with your guitars, I'm completely happy.
Well, that's the challenge. Thank you. That's the challenge for me as a maker, to and this is a slightly larger guitar. It's not as big as the biggest American acoustic, but it's slightly bigger than say a Dreadnought.
Yeah.
Sort of somewhere in between.
Yeah.
I never wanted to copy American guitars. There's nothing wrong with American guitars. My goodness, not at all. But I felt like I didn't want to copy somebody else's guitars. I wanted to go my own path. Maybe naively at the beginning, but I really wanted to learn something. So that's why I designed from the beginning. And it's very interesting that this signature model of yours, which is what we call the Old Lady, is modeled on your original 1978 guitar.
Yeah.
The same wood, the same size.
Yeah.
The only thing is that the cutaway is done deliberately from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the cutaway that I made on your 1978 guitar, of course, was a slightly strange shape because I was doing it after the fact.
Yes.
But so this is almost an exact replica of your Old Lady, and it has maybe you can demonstrate a little bit the kind of tonal colors that you can get in this.
Yes. It's all there, the harmonics are really coming out. So it's still new, but still very much warmer than the other guitar.
The other signature model, yeah.
But still
which
new.
needs 2 years or 3 years to really start to come out. That's the thing about cedar that people used to say, well, the cedar sounds so good in the beginning, but I think after 10 years we'll be dead. In fact, not.
No. Why would it die?
Well, they were talking about the character, the stiffness of the wood and the mechanical properties of the wood.
Yeah.
But my experience is that if you treat it correctly for cedar. You don't treat, as a maker, you don't treat cedar the same way you treat Adirondack.
So what would you do as a maker?
So for cedar, I make the top a little bit thicker than with Adirondack. With Adirondack, I make Sitka spruce slightly thicker than the Adirondack, and the cedar is slightly thicker than both.
So Adirondack would be the sort of basic.
Slightly thinner.
Okay.
I'm talking slightly. You know, you're talking about 0.1 of a millimeter. You know.
Yeah, I know, but it's amazing that has so much of an impact.
Oh yes, absolutely. You know, so that's what I do with cedar. I make it a little bit thicker, about Adirondack, the difference would be about 0.3 roughly. I mean, it varies because I you know, on my own guitars and on prototypes, you know, I'll be tapping and flexing and.
When you are
testing.
tapping, are you reaching for a note?
No.
But you are listening. It creates a note.
It creates a note, but what I'm listening for is the tone, not the note. I'm listening for the. Now, I know different makers do it different ways. The way I do it is I listen for a kind of bell-like tap tone.
So the harmonics.
The
note and the family of the notes coming with it.
Exactly. I don't listen for a certain note. I listen for that, what I call bell-like, and you're right, it is the harmonics coming through. And, and even the strutting, you know, the internal strutting.
Yeah.
I'm listening for that too. You know.
What do you say? The
internal bracing. Or the strutting. You know, that those individual braces. You know, on my own guitars and on the Master Series, I'll drop those on the bench to hear what kind of tone they give when they hit the bench. And the difference is not much, but you know. In a guitar, there might be several hundred things that you do when you're making the guitar. And if one thing makes really no difference on its own, when you put it with 99 other things, small things, together they can make a big difference.
Amazing.
Yeah. You know, it's like Formula One cars, you know.
Yeah.
The detail you have to pay attention to is incredible. And still it's a surprise because even though I pay attention to a lot of detail in the design and in the making process, even though I do that, I'm not sure it's going to produce the right result. There's always an element of surprise. What's this guitar going to sound like when the first time?
Now that you are building guitars with the factory, using at some extent some machines, but also still a lot of handwork.
Yes.
Do you find that from a guitar to another of the very same model, do you find differences?
Small.
Okay.
And if I'm doing my job right within the workshop, you know, because we have a great team of craftspeople there who also love what they're doing.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing my job right and Aaron is doing his job right, we will achieve a very consistent standard.
Okay.
That's important, you know.
Yeah, because, I mean, I want to say something. For instance, my signature guitar is exactly the same guitar that anyone will purchase.
Yes.
I mean, it's important to say this.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Because some people have a signature guitar, but in fact, when you want to buy the signature, it's going to be a lesser guitar.
Yeah. No.
This is exactly the same.
We pay so much attention to quality, the detail of the quality, I would say.
So what's amazing at the end of the day, you pay so much attention to details to create the state-of-the-art instrument, which is going to land in the hands of a musician who equally pays so much attention to details. Yeah. And so at the end of the day, this instrument is going to sound musical. There is going to be some music vehicle by this instrument.
Yes.
At the end of the day, the person out there listening to the music is going to close his eyes, her eyes. there will be no longer an instrument.
I did that last night.
No longer a musician, no longer a guitar maker. Even the sound engineer doing the sound for the room is disappearing too. Even the speakers are disappearing, and you are in the presence of the music.
Yes.
And you forget everything.
Yeah.
All the thousands of hours of people having dedicated whatever to the details, to looking with a microscope to the smallest little detail. At the end of the day, it's just for the music.
It's the music, yeah.
And we all disappear.
It's interesting because for the first time last night in a concert, I closed my eyes when you were playing. And it allowed me to enjoy the music even more because it was all focused on my hearing and on my feeling.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. You know, as a guitar maker, the relationship between the guitar maker and the player is so important because I need to understand the good things and the things that could be better.
And you look also at the way the person plays.
Yes, exactly.
And how he touches
Exactly.
the guitar. You know, the Spanish people, they say to touch the guitar.
Yeah.
No, they don't say to play the guitar. I say tocar la guitarra.
Touch it.
And
I like that.
It's all about touch. But for me, I keep saying from two hands to two hands.
Yeah, that's correct.
You know, from two hands, the hands of the luthier to the hands of the musician. So whenever I play this guitar, you as the father of the guitar is always there. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, just believe that you are in my life every day, every hour, every concert, every time I play my guitar, I play your guitar. Isn't it funny?
I think it's...
You never disappear. You never disappear.
That's a strange thought, but...
It's like a completely accompaniment. It's for me, it's completely normal. Mm-hmm. You know, it's normal. It's like the gift of a friend to another friend, and this friend stays in your life forever. And it's every time you think about that person, it makes you feel good about it. So that's how I feel. So I'm grateful I've been grateful from day one, and there was not one moment where I stopped being grateful. You know?
Thank you.
God,
and me also.
Thank you.
And me also. Yeah, me also.
You know,
Thanks, Pierre.
it's fantastic.